Hi everyone, I'm Glenn Flary, this is Board Games and Bourbon, and right now I want to tell you about Cosmic Run Regeneration, which is one of my favorite games of 2018. I came in with no expectations and it totally caught me off guard. In fact, it's one of the games that is in the echelon of being the ones that have satisfied everyone when I do bring it out at the game nights. And I do have some pretty seasoned gamers in my groups. Now, beyond this game being really cool, there are other reasons I want to mention it to you. One, when you get the game as part of a larger universe, including the Cosmic Run roll and write, which is one of the best roll and writes you can buy, highly interactive. You're racing to these planets and you're trying to throw space mines in the path of your opponents. It's one of the best ones you can get, and I recommended it in my best roll and writes video. This game itself is the second iteration of the Cosmic Run game universe, and there's actually a new one coming out that involves mining, and I'm really stoked about that. Now, when you get the game, you're going to get this box. It's going to come with very thorough instructions that has a little summary of what to do in there. You can not only play this cooperative and competitive, you can also play as one player, and the one player is very solid. All three forms of the game actually play out somewhat differently, so you're getting a lot of content in there. In addition to that, every player, they're going to have very vibrant blocks, and the reason the ships are blocks in this game is because the blocks need to stack on top of each other as they move through the universe. They can't be nice little figurines. They won't work that way. You're also going to have these cards here that are going to be laid out in a market. These essentially amount to cards you can buy for powers, but they're also cards you can trade in. As you can see, they're all different colors. And if you trade in two of the same, or you're going to get 7, I should say, two of the same color, you get 7. The next person to do that would get 5. The person after that would get 4 victory points. You're trying to win based on victory points. If you turn in 3 of a kind, you'll get 12, the next person 9, the next person 8. You could even be the same person triggering it. If you have 3 different ones, you get 8, 6, and 5. If you have 5 different colors and you trade it in, you get 15, 12, and 10. So you have your ships, you have that. You also have these die you're going to be rolling. Rolling the die lets you move on all these 6 planet tracks. But the crazy thing is, all of them move slightly differently. You know, you roll and you have to assign 1 die. You can assign more than 1 die, but one of them has to be assigned to one of these paths. And you're kind of hedging your bets on will you make it to the planet before they get destroyed. And how do they get destroyed? Well, over here, every time someone takes a turn, you're going to flip this deck of cards and something's going to come out. Now, in this case, this card says the asteroids and comets, they all missed the planets and nothing got hit. But over here, what they're saying is on this card, they're saying the number 4 planet gets hit first. So boom, you put a little token there that shows it gets hit once. If it gets hit twice, you flip it to the side with 2. And if it gets 3, that planet is totally destroyed. And you have to score people based on where they are and how close they got to the planet. Now, what's the score when you get to a planet? Okay, if I get my man all the way to the planet, I get 24 points. If I get it to the second place on the planet, 16. Third, 9, 4. And if you're really bad and didn't do anything, you get negative scores in the game. Well, how do you apply these die to go to all of these different locations? Well, when you play the game, you roll your die, and let's say I have 1s. To advance on the number 1 planet, you have to literally place a number 1 die. And you can put as many as you want there, and as many as you put there advances you on the track. On the number 2 planet, you have to roll 2 equal die. So I would have to have like 2 number 3s and put it there. On the 3rd planet, they would have to be 3 equals. On the 4th planet, 4 equals. On the 5th planet, 5 equals. And on the 6th planet, I have 2 options. I can either roll my red die, and this would allow me to move 5. I get the number that is on my die. Or I have to assign 2 non-equal dice, and it'll let me move 1 little unit on this track. Now, when I roll my die and I do that, I don't only have to use my die to move towards planets. I can also use them to invest in these cards. And the cards are going to give me powers in the future. But not only powers, I can then trade them in for the score points we talked about. So I might have taken this one and said, okay, well, I'm going to invest it here. And what that's going to do is that's going to get me one of these little scoring bonuses. So I take that card, I bring it in my world, I get one of these little scoring bonuses, and in this case, let's flip this over and let's see what it is, see what the grand surprise is. Here, this is what you get. flip it over, and it is a 3. So I would get 3 points there, and I would assign that to myself down there. Now, I would do that, and at the end of my turn, I would take that and bring that into my location. And the only rule about rolling the die is the last one is the yellow. Once you assign the yellow, your whole turn is over. But these cards over here, they're going to do things like if I put a number 4 over here, it'll let me add a number to my die. Some let you reduce. This one over here, if I spend 2 4s right now, I'll have an automatic +4 in the future. So if I roll all my die, I can have one more number 4, and that can help me achieve either my 4 of a kind or 5 of a kind or 3 of a kind. And that's how you get those high numbers. You can also take any of the die that you can't put anywhere because you're never really stuck in this game, and you can apply it to your player card down here. And this gives you little special powers. So let's take a look here. Now, if I assign one die here, okay, one die gives me 1 crystal. In the future, 1 crystal lets me re-roll 2 die. If I have 2 crystals, lets me re-roll all my die. If I have 3 crystals, that lets me add or subtract from 1 die. If I have 4, I can move 1 die to any face I want. And if I spend 5 crystals, it lets me add an extra die, the red die, to my hand, and I can roll that. So that really changes the odds. Now, when you're determining player order in the game, you decide right here on this track, 1, 2, 3, 4. Okay, you decide who goes first. But there's an odd thing in the game where the first person actually is the last person on this track, okay? But you do get to go first. To this next planet, they actually benefit the second player, and the second player gets a little bit of a head start. On the next planet, the blue player gets a head start. On the next planet, the green player got a head start. And on the last 2 planets, everyone's equal. So everyone is kind of compensated for the starting order when they take their turns, which makes things feel a bit more fair. On these tracks, gosh, this has so much going on. There's also those little bonus points laying on the track, and you're going to get those if you land directly on there. So if you land on there, you will get these little bonuses, and you kind of hide them until the end of the game so you don't know. So you can kind of spring it on people and catch them off guard. So what's so good about the game? Well, like any good Euro, there are a lot of things to do. You know, I've won games strictly by going for the cards. I've won games by going to the planets. There are also pressures on everything you do in the game. The pressure is, am I going to get to these planets before they explode? Because remember, every time you take a turn, you have to turn this card. It might blow up a planet. It might be number 4. If number 4 is totally destroyed, well, you drew that card. Guess what? It moves to number 2. Something is always getting destroyed, okay? So the pressure is, what planets do I want to go to? Am I in last place? Which of the tracks do I want to go to? When do I want to pull the trigger and use my yellow die? When do I want to trade these on? When you trade these cards in, you don't necessarily even have to use the power. That's the great thing about it. You can use the power and then trade it in, or if you really want to go for one of these big scores, just trade it in right away without even using the power the first time. So there's a lot of flexibility in it. It's a great game, you know, that you can play after a long day. I'd say I'd give it a 2 out of 5 on the complexity scale on BGG. The components are, it has a little bit of everything in it. You know, you have these wooden blocks. They might catch you off guard, but like, boy, I don't see too many, you know, hobbyist games that have these kind of things. You would think maybe in a science fiction game there'd be ship, you know, resin models or something, but here you need it because you need a stack. You have the dice, you have cards, you have crystals. You got a little bit of everything in there, and it is really quite potent. I brought this to a game that had a lot of grizzled game players, and when I first played it and I brought it out, I could see a little bit of, not hesitation, but they didn't know what to expect. But by the end of the game, they were taking pictures of it and retweeting about it. It's also a very reasonably priced game. And between this experience, the experience I've had with the roll and write version, I'm really, really stoked for the 3rd version with the mines that's about to come out. So once again, this is Cosmic Regeneration. It's a dice game that's going to slot in probably underneath, well, it's definitely going to slot in under like Marco Polo, below Artemis Project, closer to King's Forge if you're into dice placement, okay? But this one is really, really super cool. I might say this is actually better than King's Forge because you have more of options. Maybe it's just different, but I find it really, really interesting, and it plays very quickly, maybe like half an hour, 45 minutes. Great solo variant. In the solo variant, you have to save all the planets. In the competitive, again, you're trying to save all the planets and get everyone to there. And in the competitive, you're trying to just beat everyone and have the highest score, and that's the only concern. Okay, so that is it, guys. Check that out. Highly recommended for me. Thanks again.